It didn't bleed, didn't speak, but when it woke up, entire star systems went dark. No one dared orbit the dead sphere of Ascalon 5 anymore. The last expedition vanished within seconds. Transmissions cut mid-breath, their ships atomized. Without warning, on the galactic charts, it was stamped black, forbidden, do not approach. No details, no survivors, but humans never learned to listen. Elara Kent stood at the edge of the observation deck, her hand pressed against the frostbitten glass. Watching the dead world rotate slowly beneath the shuttle, it was nothing but ice and metal, locked in the silence of deep space. No signs of life, no light, and yet it called to her. She had studied every record, every classified myth buried in Terran archives. They spoke in broken code, haunted voice logs, and redacted black boxes. It was here the last of Earth's dreadnoughts vanished, a ship so powerful, so singular, that the Galactic Concord had ordered it wiped from memory. Project Dreadlight. Elara, came Idris Harlan's voice behind her. We shouldn't be here. She turned. He was her only surviving crew, former Union pilot. Too many scars. To few words. His face was taut. Shoulders stiff from the G-force stress of sneaking into banned territory. Their ship, the Wraith, groaned under low orbit strain. Its shielding flickered. If we turn back now, Elara said, then Earth died for nothing. Idris looked at her. Earth's already dead. She didn't reply, just stared out. Again, the truth was buried under centuries of false flags and alien diplomacy. Earth had been sacrificed in silence, its memory erased from the Council's records. Its colonies left to rot. Humanity was deemed volatile, to unpredictable. And when Project Dreadlight refused to disarm after the Concord's disarmament order, it vanished. But not before whispering one last encrypted transmission. If they ever silence Earth, wake me. Elara was 12 when her mother died under Council fire. 15 when she decoded the coordinates hidden inside the last signal. And now, at 28, she stood over the grave of the one thing that could change everything. A weapon not made to conquer, but to end conquest. Elara, Idris said again, more urgently. Something's wrong. No readings, no heat. It's like the planet's too dead. That's because it isn't a planet, she whispered. Idris stepped closer. What? She tapped a few keys on the console embedded in her glove. The rates on board limited. Old tech flashed error after error, but one image stabilized long enough to show the truth. Jagged edges beneath the crust, protrusions too perfect to be natural. It wasn't ice, it was armor. A massive black sphere of alloy and dread thousands of kilometers wide, coated in synthetic ice. Buried deep in Ascalon's crust, hidden for centuries, silent, waiting. The dread light was still here. Idris paled. You're not serious. She didn't answer. Instead, she activated the ancient sequence, the one buried in her DNA, the one her mother, a Terran scientist, had encoded in her genes with forbidden tech. Her veins lit faintly gold as the biometric cipher pulsed. Somewhere, deep below the crust, a resonance began to hum. Then the planet shifted. The air turned electric. The stars above blinked. A low, mechanical groan echoed through the void, impossible in the vacuum. And yet they both felt it in their bones. Something ancient moved, woke. The crust cracked just. A sliver and the glint of obsidian alloy stared back. Then all their ship systems shut down. No EMP spike engines offline. Idris scrambled, panic creeping in. We're dead in orbit. Not imp, Elara said, her voice hollow. Recognition. A voice crackled to life through the console. Biosignal confirmed. Elara Ken. Access level. Prime blood. Dreadlight protocol resuming. Lights beneath the crust shimmered like veins. The ice shattered upward in spirals. A massive docking tendril extended toward their shuttle. Impossibly slow, impossibly silent. Elara watched it approach, watched history resurrect itself. And then, a warning siren flared to life. But not from the dreadlight. From above, Idris's face turned pale. Something's coming. Fold signature, huge multiple ships. She looked up. Dozens of Council warships tore through the void, ripple jumping from subspace. Their hulls emblazoned with the mark of the Galactic Enforcement Armada. They weren't here to protect her. They were here to destroy it. Elara looked at the dark world below, the dreadnought slowly waking from its centuries-long slumber, and she made her choice. Seal the airlock, she said, eyes hard. We're going down. The dreadlight's docking tendril latched onto the Wraith with eerie precision. No mechanical clang, no jolt, just a smooth, a natural grip, like it had done this before, like it remembered. Alara Ken sat strapped into her seat as the wraith was reeled down into the planet's heart. The stars above faded into black ice, then into pure obsidian, then into darkness. Behind her, Idris. Harlan stared at the dead controls. They'll fire the moment they confirm it's real, he muttered. The council won't let it wake. They're already delayed, Alara replied. Above them, the orbit filled with the silent fury of the Galactic Enforcement Armada, a fleet reserved for planetary eradications, not enforcement. Capital class, dread carriers, ion platforms, stellar disruptors. Idris glanced at her. You didn't tell me it was that kind of weapon. No one knows what kind of weapon it is, she said softly, only that it made the stars afraid. A quiet chime echoed through the ship, then another, and then a voice. Chamber secure. Neural sync initializing. Welcome home, Prime Blood. They weren't on the Wraith anymore. The cockpit faded vanished around them like fog. Suddenly, Alara stood in an open chamber of light and shadow, deep within the dreadlight itself. Massive structures loomed overhead like the bones of a god. The air buzzed with a kind of memory, ancient and grieving. Idris stumbled beside her, disoriented. What the hell is this? A neural bridge, Alara said. Stunned. It's sensing our minds with the ship. Above them, crystalline nodes lit up in sequence. One by one, like eyes opening. A projection formed vague, feminine, tall as a tower and draped in data stream light. Core integrity, 91%. Weapon systems, dormant. Hostile fleet detected. Authorization required. The voice wasn't mechanical. It was human, calm, deliberate, maternal. Alara stepped forward. I authorize reactivation. Prime Blood designation, Alara Ken. Initiating defensive sequence. Warning. The voice interrupted. Engaging will violate Concord law. 0.1. Humanity's use of dreadlight is forbidden under galactic decree. Alara. Idris murmured. Think. This isn't just suicide. If we wake this thing, we make war with the galaxy. She met his eyes. There was no fear in hers only. Something worse. Memory. They already made war with us, she whispered. They just did it slow. Her mind flashed to Earth what was left of it. A ruined sphere caught in silent orbit, overgrown with alien decay. They called it a quarantine zone. But the truth was genocide, buried under peace treaties and rewritten. History. The dreadlight had been built not as a weapon of conquest, but of last resort. A warning. A line in the sand. The AI spoke again. Target lock confirmed. 70 to hostile vessels. Immediate strike possible. Idris took a shaky breath. Then we'll be outlaws. Monsters. The last Terrans. Alara placed her hand on the pulsing console in front of her. No, she said. We'll be remembered. She closed her eyes and whispered, engage. The transformation was instant. From the black depths of the crust, towers of alloy unfolded. Turrets rose like iron trees. The dreadlight surface cracked open along old fault lines, revealing interstellar cannon arrays, planetary disruptors, and weapon systems long outlawed across the galaxy. Above, the Council fleet saw it and panicked, multiple Council ships charging weapons. Idris shouted as their minds snapped back into their bodies. They're going to glass the planet. The sky flashed. Massive beams of stellar light rained down upon Ascalon 5, but nothing reached the surface. A flicker barely visible flared across the outer atmosphere. The beams bent, shattered, dissolved into harmless auroras. The dreadlight's graviton shell had engaged, a defense matrix capable of distorting physics itself. The Council ships regrouped. They brought in the superweapon platform's massive orbiters designed to crack moons. It didn't matter. The dreadlight moved. No thrusters. No engines, just intent. It rose from the planet like a god uncoiling from slumber, blacker than void, wrapped in golden sigils of Terran origin. It hovered before the fleet without sound or warning. Then it spoke. Its voice cut through space, not radio, not frequency thought. You violated the blood oath. You erased the cradle of my kind. You made the stars forget. But I remember. Now, I return. A Council flagship launched its payload, a hypersingularity core meant to crush the dreadnought. In a controlled black hole, the dreadlight fired once, just once. A beam of inverted light lanced across 900,000 kilometers in a millisecond. The core never detonated. It ceased to exist. So did the ship that carried it, and the three behind it. Alara stood on the command bridge, breath shallow. Idris stared, pale, at the view screen. "Dear stars," he whispered. "What have we done?" The dreadlight didn't respond, but it turned slowly toward the heart of Council space. Alara watched the stars align. Before them, silent and ready. "It's not what we've done," she said. "It's what we're going to do." The stars parted before the dreadlight like frightened birds fleeing a storm. The Galactic Council called it a Class D anomaly, a runaway AI, a Terran myth never meant to rise again. But the truth was simpler. It was a promise that humanity would never be forgotten, a promise forged in the last seconds of Earth. Alara Kent stood on the dreadlight's command deck, its surface pulsing with neural light. Every heartbeat sensed to hers. Every firing protocol waited on her breath. Beneath her boots, systems older than memory whispered in ancient Terran dialects. Idris Harlan paced behind her. His pilot instincts twitched with unease. "We can't take on the entire council, Alara. They'll rally everything, the core world fleets, the spiral vanguard, even the technarchs." She turned her head slightly. "Let them." He ran a hand through his graying hair. "You know what they'll say? That humanity violated the peace accord, that we woke the doomsday ship, that we're terrorists. Then let them say it while they burn." The dreadlight didn't just move, it warped reality around itself. It folded microspace with every meter, bent time in waves to travel faster than light without ever igniting a single thruster. The stars blurred, council beacons blinked and failed. Their surveillance nets collapsed, and then, without warning, they arrived. The Skurglass Fields. Once, it had been humanity's final stronghold, a belt of colonies wrapped around a dying red star. Now, it was nothing but wreckage, fields of twisted steel and shattered hulls, frozen corpses drifting in the void. Alara stepped forward, her breath caught in her throat. Here lay the last defenders of Earth, the Black Banner Fleet, erased from history by Concord decree. And here, buried deep within the wreckage, floated something else, a broken dread cruiser, marked with Terran letters, UNS Requiem. A signal blinked. Idris snapped to it first. Someone still alive in there. Alara's heart skipped. She nodded. "Lock tractor field. Bring them aboard." The airlock hissed. What emerged was no longer a soldier but a shadow of one. Gaunt, scarred, eyes sunken, mind hollowed by years of hiding in the dark. He wore a patch on his sleeve. CPT. Roar Gashin. "You in 7th Command." He collapsed upon seeing Alara. "You woke it," he rasped. "They said it was gone, that we were fools to believe." Alara knelt beside him. It was never gone, just hidden. Ashen clutched her arm like a man holding onto the last piece of light. "I'd have something. A transmission, buried code meant for prime blood." She took the data ship from his trembling fingers, plugged it into the dreadlight's neural port. The lights dimmed, the air grew heavy. Then came the message, a voice, grainy, broken. Her mother's. "If you're hearing this, they've silenced Earth. Alara, you were born to carry the flame. The dreadlight answers only to those who remember our name, but one ship is not enough. You must find the others." The Concord feared Project Dreadlight because it wasn't alone. It was the first of 3. Idris blinked. "There's more." The lights surged across the bridge. Project Echo Flare, Project Blackstar. Alara stood tall. "Where?" The AI's voice echoed. "Echo Flare signal detected. Location, Deep Forge. Helion Rift. Status, dormant. Heavily guarded." Ashen wheezed. "You'll never reach it." The rifts locked under Concord siege. The battle groups guarded day and night. "Then we break through." Idris frowned. "With what army?" Alara looked out at the void. "We don't need an army. We need the truth." They sent the message across the darknet, the encrypted ghost channels used by old Terran colonies, scavenger fleets, and rogue stations, a signal encoded with the DNA of Earth's legacy. To all remnants, to those who still carry the fire, the dreadlight walks. We are not extinct. Rally at Helion Rift. The stars forgot us, but we remember who we are. They didn't expect a reply, but they came. First a scout frigate from the series Rebellion, painted with blood-red hulls. Then an old mining cruiser from your open eye, its engine core sparking. Crew ready to fight with drills if they had to. Then came orbital tugs, retrofitted transports. Old warships long thought scrapped. A fleet of the broken, a chorus of ghosts. Idris stared at the swarm forming on the nav scan. "This isn't an army. It's a funeral procession." "No," Alara said softly. "It's a resurrection." As the dread light turned toward Hylian Rift, the scattered remnants of humanity forgotten, outlawed, erased followed in its shadow, and in the cold heart of space, deep within the galactic fracture known as the Rift, something else stirred. Echo Flare had heard the signal, and it was waking. The Hylian Rift split space like a wound twisted matter, shattered stars, and gravity wells that cried out in defiance of natural law. It was not a place meant for ships. It was a graveyard, shaped by ancient wars and fractured time, and in its heart floated Deep Forge, a hollow moon-turned fortress, where the Galactic Concord entombed the most dangerous relics in the galaxy, including Project Echo Flare. As the fleet of Terran remnants approached the rift's outer edge, the dread light slowed, folding out of warp like a leviathan rising from shadow. Its form rippled with shield light, black armor gleaming against the dying sun. Behind it, the ragtag flotilla of human vessels struggled to hold formation, creaking, overworked. Barely spaceworthy but proud, Idris Harlan studied the rifts. Perimeter on the command display. Council has 27 ships on station, he muttered. All active, all armed, no blind spots. Alara stood motionless at the prow. We're not here to sneak in. He turned toward her. So we're going loud. She nodded once. The galaxy tried to erase us quietly. We'll return like thunder. Ashton leaned against the railing nearby, coughing from lung rot and decades of cryo damage. That's a Concord Justicar-class gatekeeper up ahead, planet killer tier. You realize what it'll do the moment we cross the threshold. Yes, Alara said. It'll open fire. The dreadlight surged forward. A low hum reverberated through space as its forward arrays lit with star core energy. Plasma cannons ignited in golden arcs. The surrounding void trembled under its presence. The Concord responded instantly. Sirens blared. Ships reoriented. A chorus of transmission pings flooded all channels. Unidentified vessel. Stand down. This is restricted space. Withdraw immediately or be fired upon. The dread light gave no reply, but every Terran ship behind it broadcast one unified signal. We are the forgotten. We are the flame. Earth still breathes. Then the sky erupted. Council ships opened fire waves of antimatter rounds, iron, barrages, and rail-laced torpedoes streaked toward the dreadlight like a storm of gods. The dreadlight didn't flinch. Its graviton shell absorbed the energy. Reflected beams bent backward into their launchers. Explosions blossomed like flowers across enemy hulls. And then it returned fire. One sweep, a silent, arcing blast from its dorsal emitter sliced through the nearest battleship, disintegrating armor, crew, and command in a single breath. Idris watched it, awestruck. It's not fighting, it's teaching. The battle turned brutal. Terran frigates broke formation, flanking with reckless bravery. The rebel freighter Pyreheart rammed a Concord cruiser, venting its own oxygen to ignite a reactor burst. The European tug Rustborn deployed mobile mining drills into an enemy hull, tearing decks apart from within. The human fleet bled, but they did not retreat. Within Deep Forge, sensors flared, long-dormant protocols sputtered awake. A chamber, sealed by centuries of galactic law, cracked open, and within, it stirred. Echo Flare. If Dreadlight was a dreadnought built to survive the end of time, Echo Flare was designed to rewrite it. A temporal anomaly engine, fused with neural warfare rays and pre-collapse quantum drives technology, banned so thoroughly that even speaking its name once warranted exile. And now, it was waking, enemy reinforcements inbound. Idris shouted from the deck, "We've got 6 more Concord ships folding in from Vector Theta. No way the fleet holds." Alara turned toward the Dreadlight's AI interface. Signal. Echo Flare. Sync with its core. Prepare full override. Warning, the AI replied. Project Echo Flare is unstable. Activation may result in nonlinear causality and do it. The neural bridge shimmered around Alara. Her vision bled into light. She felt it across the rift, across time, the pulsing, dreaming core of Echo Flare, half asleep, half screaming. She reached into it not with hands, but with memory, a child, on the ashes of Earth, a mother whispering secrets in her final breath, the stars turning their backs on her kind. She didn't command. She asked, "We're still here. Wake up. Come home." And Echo Flare answered, "Space bent, not warp bent." As if reality flinched, the Hylian rift turned from darkness to impossible light. Council ships stuttered. Time to sense some paused, some jittered, some aged 10 years in a heartbeat, and then it emerged, a ship of glistening white and shattered gold. its core exposed like a bleeding heart of molten data. The air around it shimmered as if the universe wasn't sure what to make of its existence. Echo flare. With no weapons fired, no commands issued, the Council fleet broke formation. One ship spiraled out of control, its crew lost in a time loop, screaming endlessly across open comms. Another's reactor detonated before it ever launched. The rest fled. Alara collapsed to her knees. Idris caught her. "You did it," he whispered. "No," she gasped. "We did." The two dread ships drifted side by side, now red light and echo flare, reunited across centuries of betrayal and silence. But this victory came at a price. The Terran fleet was crippled, half destroyed. Ashen's freighter was gone. Many of the brave who answered the call now floated among the wreckage. Idris looked out at the debris. "We won the rift, but they'll send more. They'll send everything," Alara said, "because now they're afraid." The AI voice chimed again. Two of three Dread-class vessels awakened. Final, Project Black Star. Location, unknown. Alara stood. Her eyes were hollow, but her voice carried the weight of Earth. "Then we find it. We finish this." The stars grew silent after Helion, across 1,000 systems. Concord broadcast its official lie: illegal activation of war relics, unprovoked aggression by Terran insurgents, response in progress. But the truth spread faster. Whispers on mining moons, murmurs in dead sectors, pirate bands and old Union survivors picking up encoded bursts from deep in the Helion rift. The Dreadlight walks. Echo flare burns. Humanity has returned. Inside the Dreadlight, Alara Ken stared at a flickering star map. Thousands of points of light, each representing either a fallen human world or an enemy installation. She didn't blink, didn't speak. Not until Idris whispered behind her, "There's no way back from this. There never was." She replied, "We're not here to return. We're here to remind them what we are." He leaned closer. "Then what's next?" Her eyes narrowed at a flickering signal near the edge of the Orion discontinuity and unstable sector. No sane ship dared cross. Redacted sector. No known mass signatures, marked as Event Class Omega. But Dreadlight knew. It had always known. Project Black Star, the last of the Trinity, the weapon forbidden even by human hands. The one built after Earth had already fallen. Its coordinates were hidden under encrypted layers, sealed behind the words of the last human war council. Only one key could unlock it, and Alara had it. Her mother's voice, preserved, archived, and now decoded. She spoke the words aloud into the neural interface. "If hope fails, light the Black Star." The Dreadlight confirmed. Coordinates verified. Project Black Star located in the Absol fold. Status unknown. Power signature dormant. Warning: time anomalies present. They folded into the Absol fold 36 hours later. Echo flare led the way, warping space ahead like a needle sewing the void. The fleet that followed was even smaller now. Those who had survived Helion, passed their hulls, buried their dead, and chosen to go further anyway. Inside the fold, light behaved wrong. Stars flickered backward. Calm stuttered with echoes from the future. One scout ship aged 5 years before its pilot sent a distress beacon. Alara stood on the Dreadlight's bridge with Idris and what was left of her command. They found it 5 clicks from the fold's heart. Black Star. It wasn't a ship. It was a wound in space, sealed in a singularity vault, a suspended anomaly wrapped in obsidian cables and ritualized Terran armor plating. It pulsed like a heart under strain. Its shape defied geometry. Its silence carried intention. The AI faltered, its voice strained. "Warning: Black Star is not stable. Project Protocol Omega Null. Activation may result in event-level system resets galactic-wide." Idris whispered, "It's a reset bomb, not a ship." Ashen, half collapsing, but still at Alara's side, shook his head. "It's more than that. Black Star was the last card. If everything failed, if the galaxy succeeded in erasing us, we'd erase them back. Not with fire," Alara said, "but with memory." Ashen finished. She turned to Idris. "What's the risk if we activate it?" "Everything," he said. "It could wipe neural networks, void weapon systems, rewrite entire fleet memories, collapse the galactic data lattice. Whole civilizations would forget who they are. Then they'll finally understand what they did to us." Alara approached the vault. The neural command node extended like a blade awaiting its wielder. And then she hesitated, not from fear, but from the weight of it all. The ghost of Earth, the screams from Helion, the burning of human colonies, the laughter of the council, the silence of the stars. It had never been about revenge. It had always been about truth. "I won't erase the galaxy," she said. Idris blinked. "You're not activating it. I'll awaken it. But I won't fire it. Not unless they give us no choice." Ashen smiled for the first time. "You sound like her," Alara pressed her hand into the vault. The cables split. The anomaly screamed, and Black Star opened its eye. Far above, the Concorde central AI ray went blind. Across 20 sectors, weapon systems failed. Comms collapsed. Historical databases began rewriting themselves, and in one flash across the core world network, a single phrase overrode every security measure. "We remember Earth." Council panic surged. In the Grand Citadel of Virix Prime, 12 emissaries of the Concorde met in emergency session. "The Dread Trinity is active. We should have destroyed them when we had the chance. We must strike now. No more hesitation." A single vote passed unanimously. Initiate final protocol. Extinguish the Terran line. Every fleet, every weapon, every bounty hunter, mercenary, and elite kill order went active. Across the galaxy, the stars turned red. On the edge of the fold, Alara felt it. Not fear, but clarity. "They're coming," Idris said. "All of them." She turned to face him. "Then we stop running." She looked at Black Star, Dread Light, and Echo Flare, 3 weapons of Earth's last breath, now standing side by side. Behind them, a broken fleet. In front of them, a galaxy terrified of its own reflection. "We end it here." The galaxy braced for war. Every council ship, every enforcement fleet, every core world dreadnought, every AI-controlled Harbinger drone was burning toward one place, the Absol Fold, to crush humanity's last rebellion, to bury the Dread Trinity once and for all. They came in silence. No threats, no diplomacy, just extermination protocols, just the cold determination of an empire terrified of what it had failed to kill. Inside the Dreadlight's command bridge, a countdown pulsed. T-minus 17 hours until Concorde Armada arrival. Alara Ken watched the timer like it was carved into her soul. No illusions left, no safety. This was the line, the last line. 3 ships. Idris muttered behind her. 3 ships and a fleet of broken relics against half the galaxy. She didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the Trinity Black Star above them in orbit. Echo Flare weaving time tendrils through the rift, and Dreadlight steady and awake beneath her feet. Each one built for extinction. Each one still not enough. Ashen entered the bridge, coughing blood into a rag. "Recon just returned," he rasped. "They'll be here sooner than expected." Councils cleared every hyperlane. No delays. "They want us erased before anyone else hears the signal." "They already heard," Alara said quietly. "All of them. Scattered colonies, pirate enclaves, survivors. They're listening." Idris checked the long-range scanners. "Listening won't help when the sky falls." Alara turned. "Then we give them more than a message." She stepped to the neural core, her voice steady. "Bring all systems online. Prepare planetary defense grid. Sync Echo Flare's war platis and prime Black Star for potential trigger." The AI pulsed. "Warning. Black Star activation will affect all sentient minds. Connected to the Concorde neural lattice. Risk. Galactic-wide cascade memory fracture." "I know," she whispered. "But if they erase us, we make sure they forget everything they built on our bones." The hours bled. Repairs were rushed. Weapons charged. Final letters were recorded by trembling crew members, some human, some hybrid, all loyal. Outside, the black void was deceptively calm until it cracked open. The Concorde Armada arrived like a god descending. 12 carrier dreadnoughts, dozens of destroyers, hundreds of starfighters, planet-culling beams already warming along their keels. Idris cursed. "They're in full extermination formation, exactly as expected," Alara said. Her voice had changed, less human now, more like steel honed against extinction. "This is where we show them what they tried to bury." The first strike. The council opened with no warning. A solar fusion lance tore through the rift. Echo Flare shimmered, time twisted, and the beam passed into a different second entirely. Missed. Dreadlight answered with a counterblast, slicing the lead destroyer into particles. The human fleet surged forward, old ships, bleeding engines, scavenged hulls, and yet they struck like wolves. A mining barge from Saturn rammed a council corvette at full burn. A pirate ship fired modified jump cores like missiles, collapsing local space and taking out to gunships. But it wasn't enough. They were dying. One by one, the Terran ships fell, each death a spark in Alara's chest. She stood rigid as the Dreadlight's weapons melted through 3 more Council vessels. Idris shouted, "We can't hold. We're being pushed back to the fold." Her knuckles whitened. "Prepare the final command." Black Star pulsed above them. The weapon that would end not just the war but memory, history, civilization. Everything the Concord had become. Ashenkoff fell to one knee. "You'll wipe them," he said. "But you'll burn us too." Alara stared into the void where Earth once orbited a sun. "We were already burned," the AI whispered. Black Star primed, awaiting final neural confirmation. She placed her hand on the trigger console. Idris looked at her. "If you fire that thing," he said, "you're not a savior. You're the storm, the end." She looked back, tired and hollow. "No," she said, "I'm the memory." Her fingers hovered over the final node, but then, a pulse. Not from Black Star. From the edge of the fold. Dozens of signals. Then hundreds. New ships. Old codes. Human. A voice crackled across the comms female. Sharp, defiant. "This is Captain Milovas of the Iron Requiem. We heard the call. We brought the forgotten." On the edge of the fold, humanity rose. Old Earth sleeper cells. Mars resistance cruisers. Rogue AI ships built by Terran. Minds. Smugglers turned warlords who remembered the fall. They came from dead sectors, erased colonies. Moon tombs. The forgotten armada. Thousands strong. Alara's hand fell away from Black Star. She didn't need the apocalypse. She had humanity. Dreadlight surged forward, no longer alone. And now, for the first time in centuries, the Council fleet blinked, because they weren't fighting 3 forbidden warships. They were fighting an entire species that refused to stay dead. The stars burned. From the heart of the Absol fold, the forgotten armada poured into the fire, one last cry from the species. The galaxy had condemned a myth. 1,000 ships, scarred and scavenged, moved in unison behind the Dreadlight, Echo Flare, and the unopened shadow of Black Star. Humanity, long thought extinct, marched to war, and this time the galaxy watched. Alara Ken stood in the Dreadlight's neural bridge, no longer just a soldier or survivor. She had become something more, something the Concord feared from the beginning. A witness who remembered. The AI's voice chimed softly, as if it, too, knew what was coming. Final sync complete. All Terran vessels are in formation. Echo Flare's chronolatus stabilized. Black Star dormant. Council fleet strength at 63%. Estimated survival, 7.4%. Alara stared into the projection of the Galactic Warfront tread enemy markers, overwhelming the blue lines of her scattered allies. It didn't matter. They weren't here to survive. They were here to be seen. "Give me open comms," she said. The signal flared across the rift. To every human ship, to every enemy vessel, to every satellite and signal tower within 100 systems, Alara's voice rang out calm, quiet, unshaken. "This is Alara Ken of Earth. We do not ask for mercy. We do not ask for treaties. We are what you buried. We are the ones you lied about. You called us chaos. You called us war. But you forgot one thing. You didn't kill us. You made us remember. And now, we remember everything." Then the Dreadlight moved. It didn't charge. It descended, folding. Space between itself and the Council's dreadnought line. Dreadlight struck like a hammer of God. Beams of inverted light carved through enemy hulls with surgical precision. Missiles locked in impossible spirals and tore through AI cores. Before the defense nets even noticed, Echo Flare followed, time bleeding from its hull as it phased between. Moments, enemy ships that fired at it found their missiles launched backward. Others simply vanished, erased from the timeline, and behind them surged the human tide. The Iron Requiem screamed through enemy lines. Boarding parties cutting into high-cast warships with magnetized claws and exo-blades. The dust. Warden, a once-abandoned Union battleship, emerged from warp, trailing 8 mines like teeth, ripping an entire Concord formation apart. Even the smallest craft fought like giants. Earth-born ingenuity, desperation weaponized. But it came at a cost. The Parafall gone in a flashfire detonation. The Cradle's heart cracked in half, her crew vented to space, still transmitting Earth's anthem as they died. Even with the Trinity, even with the tide, humanity bled. Idris Harlan was thrown against the bridge wall as a shockwave struck. The Dreadlight, "We're taking hits," he shouted, shields holding, but Echo Flare's unstable. Too many warp folds at once, it's fracturing. Alara turned to ashen. who had barely made it to the bridge. Black Star, she asked. He didn't answer with words, just gave a nod, a quiet, solemn nod, the kind you give before ending a species. The AI chimed. Black Star online, awaiting command input. Warning, irreversible memory cascade imminent. Upon activation, Alara placed her hand on the trigger interface. But before she could speak, the transmission broke through the noise. Encrypted, Concord protocol. But ancient, the voice cold, mechanical, but familiar. This is Emissary Varan of the Galactic Concord Central Core. Cease fire. We invoke. Protocol 77. We request. Parley. The bridge fell silent. Even the dread light paused. Idris blinked. Parley, now. Alara's fingers trembled. They're losing, Ashen whispered. They know it now. They didn't think we'd make it this far. Alara looked at the screen. The enemy fleet battered, burning, breaking apart, and in the middle of it, a single white-flagged ship breaking formation. Surrender. After centuries of silence, Alara turned to Idris. Bring the comms online. Visual. The screen shimmered. A Concord emissary appeared then, elongated, all bone-white armor, and artificial calm. He bowed his head. Earth's legacy is not forgotten. He said, it was silenced. That was a mistake. We recognize your sovereignty. We offer ceasefire, immediate de-escalation, a place among the stars again. Idris stared at the image like it was a ghost. Ashen clenched a fist. They're afraid. That's all this is. They should be, Alara said. She stepped forward. Staring at the projection of the emissary, she raised her voice not for him, but for the thousands still fighting, dying, burning behind her. You don't get to decide who belongs in the stars. You don't get to erase a people and beg for peace when they come back stronger. This isn't your galaxy anymore. It never was. It's ours. She ended the transmission, then turned to her crew. All ships, stand down. A moment passed, then another, and across the battlefield, the fire stopped. No more lasers, no more cries, just drifting wreckage, broken hulls, and one truth. Humanity had won, not with Black Star, not with annihilation, but by surviving, by returning, by making the galaxy see them again. The war ended in silence, no treaties, no processions, no grand declarations etched in gold. Only wreckage, only stars blinking over a battlefield littered with what could no longer be erased. Ships that bled ancient Terran flags, ghosts of colonies once buried beneath propaganda, and at the center of it all three dread ships floating like monuments to a past the galaxy had tried to forget. Dreadlight, Echo Flare, Black Star. The Trinity had survived, but only barely. On the fractured bridge of the Dreadlight, Alarakan stood alone. The command deck flickered with low power. The neural conduits sparked around her boots. Idris was gone, his fighter lost during the third wave. Ashen had died hours before the final ceasefire, slumped in the medbay. Clutching a data chip containing the last uncensored map of pre-fall Earth, she held that chip now, pressed between gloved fingers, a whisper from a world that no longer turned. The AI's voice crackled, dim and flickering. All hostilities ceased. Concord fleet retreating. Civilian broadcasts confirming armistice across 19 sectors. Alara exhaled. Her breath shook. They'd done it, not by unleashing Black Star, not by becoming monsters, but by proving they were still human and still unbroken. She turned toward the central neural interface. Her reflection stared back a gaunt face, eyes sunken from war and loss, but fierce. Her mother had once told her that humanity was made of memory, not ships, not planets, not systems, but names, stories, sacrifices carried in blood. Now the galaxy would remember again. 3 days passed. Signals spread like wildfire, encrypted Terran broadcasts emerging from 1,000 hiding places. Once shuttered bunkers powered on, Earth-aligned A is reactivated themselves. The Council tried to suppress the wave, tried to spin the battle as an illegal conflict stopped through diplomatic brilliance. But it was too late. Someone had filmed Alara's speech. Someone had streamed it into the core worlds, through pirate stations, into school networks, into the vaults of history. You don't get to decide who belongs in the stars. The words ignited a storm. Rebellion sparked across Council space, not just from humans, but from species who remembered their own scars. Colonies rose with Terran banners painted in rust. Children born under false histories asked new questions. The Concord fractured not from war, but from truth. Black Star remained sealed. Alara had made her choice. it would remain what it was. Always meant to be not a weapon, but a memory engine. A galactic failsafe to preserve the truth when everything else failed. Now, it drifted in orbit beside Dreadlight and Echo Flare, silent guardians of a story almost erased. A story now impossible to ignore. On the 10th day, the surviving captains of the human fleet gathered aboard the Iron Requiem. They wore no uniforms, no medals, only scars. No hierarchy remained, no Earth to return to, just one decision. What would they become now? A woman from the Europa Reclamation Front stood first. No one owns us anymore. We have the Trinity. We have each other. Let's build something that lasts this time. An old AI host once, Concord Property, projected its voice into the chamber. We do not need empires, only remembrance, and stars to sail. Captain Milavos of the Requiem looked to Alara. You brought us here, she said. What's left for us now? Alara rose slowly. She looked around at the faces tired, grieving. Fearsant spoke what had lived in her chest, said she. First touched Dreadlight's core. We were never meant to rule the galaxy. We were meant to challenge it. They built their peace on forgetting us. So now we build our future on making sure that no one forgets anyone ever again. She stepped forward, placed the Earth data ship on the table before them, scorched, but whole. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about truth. They all nodded, and the fleet was reborn not as a nation, but as a reminder. Years passed. The Concord never fully recovered. Its laws changed. Its secrets leaked. Children across 1,000 worlds grew up learning the story of the Trinity, Dreadlight, Forged in Earth's death, Echo Flare, the ship that bled time, and Black Star, the forbidden vessel that was never fired because humanity chose to remember, not destroy. The Terran fleet never settled. It drifted, a fleet of libraries, witnesses, protectors of memory, and at its head, Alara Khan, never a queen, only a keeper. In her final days, aboard a quiet, starlit chamber within Dreadlight, she recorded one last message, her voice thin, but unwavering. If you're hearing this, we made it through. Maybe the names are lost. Maybe the places too. But somewhere, out here, someone remembers, and that's all we ever needed. Not monuments, not vengeance, just to be seen. We were broken, but we were never beaten, and now the stars carry our name. Human.